The man wakes in the middle of the road, blood crusted to his temple, headlights blinding him in the dark. His clothes are soaked, but there's no rain. Behind him, tire tracks, a twisted guardrail, and something lying in the ditch. A child's backpack. He stumbles toward it, fingers trembling. But when he opens the backpack and sees the name stitched inside, something inside him snaps, because it's his daughter's name, and he doesn't have a daughter. The first thing he notices is the buzzing. Not a sound exactly, more like static in his skull, a low electrical hum pulsing beneath everything. Then comes the smell. Copper, gasoline, scorched rubber. He's lying face down on asphalt, the skin of his cheek burning against it. A sharp, rhythmic pain pulses at his temple. He tries to sit up. A wave of nausea hits him like a truck dot the truck. Flashes, white light, a scream, spinning trees, and then nothing. His hands are scraped raw. His shirt clings to his back, damp and cold. He stumbles to his feet and sees that he's on a narrow, rural road somewhere in the woods. There's a twisted metal guardrail to his right, bent and torn as if something heavy veered off the road. Tire tracks gouge the earth, leading down into a dark ravine. He follows them at the bottom of the slope. Among broken branches and crushed undergrowth lies a rusted blue sedan. The front is crumpled around a tree. Steam hisses from the hood. The driver's side door is open, but it's the object lying 10 feet from the car that freezes him in place. A small pink backpack. He drops to his knees, heart thundering, then lifts it gently. There's a juice box inside, smashed crackers, a sheet of stickers, and a name stitched on the inner flap in bright purple thread. Ellie James. He stares at it for a long time, the name vibrating in his skull like a siren. Tears well in his eyes, unbidden. Ellie James. Ellie. Ellie. His voice cracks when he says it aloud. Ellie. It feels like someone else's voice. He looks around, scanning the woods. Ellie? No response. Just the creaking of the metal car frame and the hum of insects in the dark. He stumbles back up to the road, still clutching the backpack. Every nerve in his body screams that something is deeply wrong. But the worst part is this. He doesn't know who he is. There's no wallet in his pocket. No phone. He searches the wreckage, but the license plate is missing. The glove box is empty. He stares at his reflection in the cracked side mirror. A man in his late 30s, with blood-matted brown hair and terrified eyes. Who am I? That's when the headlights appear, far down the road, growing closer. Relief surges through him. He runs into the road, waving his arms. Hey, please, the car slows. A window rolls down and the woman inside screams. He backs away, startled. Wait, I'm not. But she's already reversed, tires squealing, vanishing into the night. He stands alone in the road, shaking. Ellie's backpack pressed to his chest like a lifeline. From the woods behind him, something cracks. A branch. Underfoot, he turns sharply, but there's no one there. Only darkness. He walks. Hours maybe. His legs ache, muscles screaming with each step, but stopping feels more dangerous. The static in his head hasn't gone away. If anything, it's louder now, like an old radio between stations. Every few minutes, he whispers the name stitched. Inside the backpack, Ellie James, hoping it might unlock something at DOES, and single quotes T. eventually. Lights appear ahead. A gas station, old and grimy, the neon open sign flickering like it's trying to stay awake. A teenage clerk behind the counter looks up, startled as he enters, bloodied and barefoot. Jesus, dude, the clerk says. You okay? He sets the backpack gently on the counter. I need help. I think there was an accident. The kid hesitates. Should I call 911? He nods. Please. The call is short. The man doesn't give a name. He just says there was a crash, maybe? A child involved. When the dispatcher asks if he was driving, he pauses for too long. I don't remember. Within 10 minutes, a sheriff's cruiser rolls into the lot. The officer is tall, mid-50s, hard-lined face, and steel-gray eyes. His badge reads Sheriff Donald Raymer. You the one called it in? Raymer asks, Yes, I found a car off the road. I think there was a little girl with me. He shows the backpack. Ellie James. Raymer's face shifts. Not surprise. Not exactly, but something subtle. Like recognition. You said you don't know who you are? The sheriff asks. I don't remember anything before I woke up. Not even my name. Raymer nods slowly. Then he gestures toward his cruiser. Let's get you checked out at the hospital. We'll figure it out. Inside the cruiser, the man watches trees blur past, their shadows like skeletal fingers clawing the windows. He tries to hold on to one clear thought. Ellie. She must have been in the car. But why can't he picture her? What did her voice sound like? Her face? At the hospital, a nurse tends to his wounds while the sheriff speaks to the front desk. Lee. Man's head pounds. Later, Raymer returns, holding a file. We ran your prints. You're not in the system, but your face came up on a silver alert issued 2 days ago. Name's Michael James, from Ash Grove, Missouri. Michael, the name feels foreign, but not wrong. You went missing Friday morning. Wife reported it. Said you left home early and never came back. Wife? He echoes. I have a wife? Raymer nods. And a daughter, Ellie, 6 years old. Michael's stomach twists. Is she? Did she? We haven't found a body, Raymer says. Just your car. Crashed and empty. Michael grips the armrest, knuckles white. Then where is she? Raymer looks at him carefully, as if weighing something. That's what we're going to find out. Michael's voice is a whisper. I didn't hurt her. No one's. Saying you did? But the look in Raymer's eyes says otherwise. And in that moment, Michael feels it, like a hairline crack splitting open in his mind. A memory trying to surface. Her voice shrieking. Tires screaming. His hands on the wheel. Then black. Raymer watches him for a beat too long. You said you don't remember anything, the sheriff says slowly. But you found your way to the gas station. Michael blinks. You walked 5 miles from the crash, Raymer says, through backwoods and unmarked roads. No signs, no lights, but you didn't hesitate. Michael's heart stutters. How'd you know where to go? Michael sits on the edge of the hospital bed, fingers twitching around the strap of Ellie's backpack. The juice box inside has leaked, sweet stickiness soaking the lining. He stares at the purple stitching of her name, each letter carved into. His brain, like a scar-dot Sheriff Raymer, watches from the corner, arms crossed. You sure you're up for this? I need to see my wife. They drive in silence. Rain spatters the windshield, fat and slow. Michael watches the countryside pass in disjointed blinks, barns, rusted mailboxes, collapsing fences. Every turn feels familiar and wrong at the same time. As they near Ash Grove, the static in his head spikes again, louder than before. He clenches his jaw, fingers digging into his thighs. Then, suddenly, the house appears, white, colonial, sagging. Porch, an old swing swaying on a thick chain. The mailbox reads James. The moment he steps out of the car, his knees nearly buckle. It's not just déjà vu. It's something deeper. Like walking into a dream you've already lived. Raymer stays by the cruiser as Michael approaches the porch. Before he can knock, the door swings open. A woman stands there, barefoot in the doorway. Her face is pale, lips cracked, hair pulled into a messy bun. She looks like she hasn't slept in days. Her eyes meet his, and she slaps him hard. Michael stumbles back, the sting blooming across his cheek. She's already crying. Where is she? I don't know, he says, voice breaking. I swear, I don't remember. You left at 6 that morning. Syed, you had to pick up something. For Ellie's school project. You never came back. Then your car turns up wrecked and empty. And now you what? Forgot we exist? She collapses into a chair, sobbing. I thought you killed her. I thought you killed her and ran. Raymer steps in. Lavra, he's been through trauma. The doctors think he's suffering from dissociative amnesia. It's rare, but real. Michael turns sharply. What kind of trauma causes someone to forget their own child? Raymer doesn't answer. Later, after Laura storms upstairs, Michael wanders through the house. Every object is a riddle. A coffee mug with number 1 Dad. The fridge drawings. Signed Ellie. A photograph of the 3 of them at a carnival. Her face blurred from motion, but his smile clear. Too clear. He should remember this dot in Ellie's bedroom. The air's thick with dust and silence. Pink wallpaper. Stuffed animals. A half-finished jigsaw puzzle on the floor. Then he sees the drawing. It's taped to the wall beside her bed. A crayon. Sketch of a man with red scribbles for eyes, towering above a crying girl. In the corner, she wrote, This is Daddy when he gets bad. Michael staggers backward. Something cold floods his chest. Then, footsteps in the hallway. He turns. Laura stands there silent. Her face hollowed. I didn't want to believe it. She says, But Ellie told me you were getting worse. That sometimes you didn't even see her. Michael shakes his head. I wouldn't. She takes a step closer. What happened to you out there, Michael? Before he can answer, the doorbell rings. Raymer opens it. A deputy whispers something into his ear. Raymer turns pale. Then he looks at Michael. We found something, he says. Michael's breath catches. Raymer lowers his voice. It's about Ellie. The woods are darker than Michael remembers. He stands behind the line of police tape, the wind biting at his skin. A dozen officers comb the ravine near the crash site, flashlights cutting through the underbrush. Sheriff Raymer's voice is low but firm as he briefs the search. Team, while Michael lingers like a ghost on the edge. It's just past dawn. The sun hasn't yet burned through the mist rising off the creek below. Raymer walks over to him. You sure you're up for this? Michael doesn't answer. Instead, he follows the path downhill, toward the creek. It's not the car wreck they've returned to. It's what the divers pulled from the water early this morning. Something caught in the roots of a tree, half buried in silt and gravel. Raymer stops him 20 feet from the scene. There's a shoe, he says. Child-sized. Matches what? Your wife said Ellie wore that morning. Michael sways. And blood on a nearby rock. We've sent it to the lab, but he doesn't finish. Michael closes his eyes. But instead of darkness, he sees flashes. Ellie's hand in his. Her voice behind him. The crunch of tires. A sharp, frantic scream. He opens his eyes. What if I did something? What if I hurt her? Raymer studies him carefully. You really don't remember? Michael's voice is hoarse. No, but what if I wanted to forget? The sheriff says nothing. Back at the house, Michael sits in Ellie's room long after the search is called off for the day. The walls seem smaller now, heavier. The drawing is still there. This is Daddy when he gets bad. He turns it over. Something else is scrawled on the back. Smaller, sloppier. Don't let Daddy drink the red bottle. Michael's chest tightens. Downstairs. He ransacks the cabinets. No red bottles. He checks the garage, the shed, the locked cabinet in the laundry room. Nothing. until he finds a wooden box under the sink. Hidden behind cleaning supplies, Doc inside, an empty pill bottle. No label, Doc, and a second one, half full. Dark red capsules. No name, no instructions. Just a pharmacy stamp from a small town an hour away. He stares at them. That night, while Lavra sleeps upstairs, Michael drives. The sign reads, Dr. Evelyn Harrow, Neuropsychiatry and Cognitive Disorders. He doesn't remember the place. But his hands know how to get there. The office is closed. But he bangs on the door until a light comes on. A woman answers, older, thin-rimmed glasses, alarmed but not surprised. She blinks when she sees him. Michael? He nods. You're not supposed to be here. What are these? He holds up the bottle. She stiffens. I need to know what's happening to me. She opens the door wider. Then come in, she says softly. We have a lot to talk about. Dr. Evelyn Harrow's office smells faintly of antiseptic and lavender, like a place trying to disguise something sour beneath it. Bookshelves line the walls, filled with texts on trauma, memory, and rare psychological disorders. Michael sits across from her, the red capsule bottle trembling in his hand. She looks older than the photo on her desk, deeper lines, eyes dulled by something heavier than fatigue. Tell me what they are, he says. And don't lie. Evelyn folds her hands in her lap. They're a memory suppressant. Off-label use of propranolol, combined with a custom neuroleptic compound. You were part of a trial. Michael's head spins. A trial? You came to me 6 months ago, she says gently. You said you were losing time, gaps in your memory, violent dreams. You were terrified of hurting someone. Your wife, your daughter. His mouth goes dry. Did I? She doesn't answer. Not directly. There were incidents, outbursts. You described episodes of depersonalization, blackouts. You didn't recognize Ellie once when she woke you in the middle of the night. Michael's stomach churns. I recommended inpatient treatment. You refused. You begged me for another solution. Something to make the intrusive memories stop. That's when we started the medication. He stares at the bottle. You took them daily, she continues. But 2 weeks ago, you stopped. Cold turkey. You told me you had to remember. I don't remember any of this. That's the problem, she says. This medication doesn't just dull traumatic memories. It suppresses the emotional weight behind them. Without it, everything floods back at once. And in your case, the trauma wasn't historical. It was ongoing. Michael's voice is barely a whisper. What did I do? Evelyn looks at him long and hard. Then she reaches into a file cabinet and pulls out a folder. Inside, photos, journal entries, audio recordings. The first photo is of Ellie. Bruises on her arm. Michael recoils. No, I didn't. You didn't know, Evelyn says. That's why you came to me. You were terrified of yourself. You said there were moments you'd look in the mirror and not recognize the man looking back. Michael clutches the sides of his head. The static is roaring now, like a freight train ripping through his skull. You said you remembered hurting someone when you were younger. A boy. Your cousin, I think. But your family buried it. Pretended it never happened. Michael flashes. A boy screaming. Water. A duck. His hands. Slipping. Evelyn's voice cuts through the haze. That trauma never left you. It warped something. In you. When the stressors piled up, work, family, fatherhood, it triggered a full dissociative response. He looks up at her, eyes wide. So I blacked out. And I hurt her? I don't know, she says quietly. But you were terrified that one day you would. Michael grips the edge of the desk. Where is she, Evelyn? She swallows. Her voice shakes. You called me the night before you disappeared. You were crying. You said you'd finally remembered. Everything. You said you knew what you had to do. A woman wakes up in her childhood bedroom, the wallpaper peeling just like it did 25 years ago. Her phone is dead. The windows are boarded shut. In the corner of the room, a baby monitor hisses static. She's alone except for the voice she hears calling her name through the walls. Her name, which she no longer remembers, Rachel's first. Sensation was the weight in her chest, like something had climbed inside her ribs during the night and made a home there. She opened her eyes slowly, disoriented by the dim, dusky light filtering through lace curtains. The air was stale. It smelled like mildew and dust. The bed creaked as she sat up, each movement feeling like a decision she wasn't ready to make. The room was familiar, but wrong. Floral wallpaper, faded and curling at the edges, covered the walls. A white dresser with little ceramic knobs stood against the far side. She recognized the pink lampshade, the scratched wooden floorboards even, the patchwork quilt hand-stitched by a woman whose name she couldn't recall. She reached for her phone on the nightstand. Dead, no signal, no charger. Then she noticed the window, boarded from the outside. Rachel stood, legs shaky beneath her, and stumbled toward it. She ran her fingers along the boards, thick, nailed tight. Her breath caught in her throat. She turned to the door, tried the knob, locked. Hello? Her voice cracked from disuse. Is anyone here? Silence. Then, a low hiss. She turned sharply. In the corner of the room sat an old baby monitor, its casing yellowed with age, the speaker buzzing faintly. She stared at it, pulse rising. His SSS. Then a voice. Faint, like it was coming from somewhere far underground. Rachel. Her body went rigid. The voice was female. Familiar in a way she couldn't explain, like hearing a song from a dream you forgot the moment you woke up. Who is that? She whispered, crouching near the monitor. Static. Then, louder. Don't forget. Rachel backed away, heart hammering. Forget what? What are you talking about? Silence. She stared at the monitor until her vision blurred. Sweat broke out along her spine. She sat back on the bed, holding her head in her hands. Then something else struck her. She didn't know how she got here. Didn't know what day it was. Couldn't even remember what she did for work. She pressed her hands harder against her temples. Images floated up like fragments of broken glass. A hallway. Screaming. Blood on white tile, but none of it made sense. Doorknob rattled. Rachel jerked her head up. Someone was on the other side. Turning the knob slowly. Testing it. She bolted upright, grabbed the lamp off the nightstand, her hands trembling. A pause. Then footsteps, retreating. Silence again. She ran to the door, pounded her fists against it. Let me out. What do you want from me? No answer. Just that damned baby monitor, whispering nothing at all. Rachel collapsed against the wall, breathing ragged, rocking slightly, and in the stillness, a single thought pushed through the haze. You've been here before. But when? And why? Couldn't she remember? Rachel didn't sleep. The room stayed dark, as if the house had swallowed the sun whole. No clocks. No natural light. The air was too still, as if it didn't belong to the outside world anymore. Like time had curled in on itself. She sat by the wall for hours, maybe more. Her only company was the faint buzz of the baby monitor and the distant groaning of old wood shifting in the silence. Eventually, she stood. The need to act overcame the fear. She began methodically checking every corner of the room. She knocked on walls, pulled drawers, tapped for hollowness, anything. When she yanked the dresser aside, something thumped behind it. Her breath caught. There was a small square outline on the wall. A crawl space door. She clawed at the edges, tearing away bits of old wallpaper until her nails cracked. She found notch just deep enough to pry her fingers in and pulled. The panel groaned open, revealing a narrow tunnel of darkness. Rachel hesitated. Then the baby monitor flared to life again. Not there. The voice warned, softer now. She turned toward it. Why? What's in there? Not yet. Static. She stared into the crawl space. Something about it was wrong. The smell alone metallic, damp sent a cold shiver crawling up her back. Closed it, heart pounding. Then a sharp knock echoed from somewhere behind the wall. 3 times. Rachel screamed. What do you want from me? No answer. Just her own breath, and the rising sense of dread curling tighter and tighter inside her chest. She sat again, curling her knees to her chest, rocking. And she saw it. A note, folded, slipped just beneath. The door frame, like someone had pushed it through while she wasn't looking. She crawled over, trembling, and opened it with shaking fingers. It read, in shaky handwriting, "The red door will open at nightfall. Don't trust the man in the white coat." Her mind reeled. Red door? Man in the white coat? None of this made any sense, but it felt real. Like her body remembered something her brain wouldn't let her access. She pressed her forehead against the door, closed her eyes. And suddenly a memory rushed in, brief and bright like lightning. A hallway again, cold, sterile, fluorescent lights, her wrists restrained. A man in a white coat speaking softly as he inserted a needle into her arm. Then darkness. She gasped, stumbling backward, nearly dropping the note. What the hell was happening to her? The baby monitor hissed again. This time, no voice. Just the sound of someone breathing. Then tap, tap, tap. On the wall behind her. Same spot. Same rhythm. She turned, lips trembling. Pressed her hand against the wall. It was warm. Too warm. Something or someone was right on the other side, and they were waiting for her. The light in the room never changed. It wasn't day. It wasn't night. Just the same murky dimness, like the house was stuck between time zones or between realities. Rachel stared at the baby monitor, at the wall, at her own hands. They didn't feel like hers anymore. The longer she was trapped here, the more untethered she felt. Like her body was just a suit she wore, one she didn't choose. But then suddenly something shifted. The room darkened. Not like a light dimming, more like a shadow sliding over the world outside. The air thickened, and from somewhere deep in the house, a distant click echoed. Rachel stood. She didn't know how she knew, but she knew. Night had fallen. She pressed her ear to the door. Silence. Then a slow, dragging sound. Wood scraping against wood. A door being opened. She turned back to the crawl space panel, her skin crawling. The red door will open at nightfall. It had to be somewhere beyond that tunnel. Ignoring the voice's warning, she pulled the panel open again and crawled in. The space was tight, the air suffocating. Her elbows scraped along the splintered wood. Cobwebs clung to her face. She could barely breathe. After what felt like an eternity, she reached a hatch and pushed it open. She emerged into a hallway. It was the same one from her fragmented memory, pale green walls. Flickering fluorescent lights overhead. Cold tile. Beneath her feet, the smell of antiseptic and something deeper, fouler. And there it was. At the end of the hall, under a flickering light, a red door. Rachel approached slowly, her pulse pounding in her ears. As she reached out to touch the doorknob, she heard it again, the baby monitor. But this time, the voice wasn't coming from the device. It was inside her head. He'll lie to you. The door creaked open on its own. Inside, a small, sterile room. A hospital bed. A tray of medical tools. A mirror on the wall cracked straight down the middle. And a man sitting in the corner. Coat, clipboard in hand. He looked up at her. "Rachel," he said gently, "you're not supposed to be out of your room." She froze. "Who are you?" He smiled, kind. "Too kind. You're not well," he said. "But we're going to fix that. Just come back with me. Everything will make sense soon." "No," she whispered. "I don't know you." "You do," he said. "You knew me for years." She backed away. He stood, calm, measured, like someone used to dealing with wild animals. "You had another episode. You forgot again. But this time we can try something stronger." She turned to run. He moved faster than she expected, grabbing her arm. She screamed, kicked, bit his hand. He didn't flinch. Just whispered, "We're not going to let you disappear again." Then everything went black. She woke back in the bedroom, the monitor hissing, the door locked, the board still on the window, like nothing had ever changed. But on her wrist new bruises in the shape of fingers. Rachel didn't cry when she woke. She didn't scream. She just stared at the ceiling, unmoving, numb. Something had broken. It wasn't the bruises on her wrist. It was the part of her that believed any of this could still be explained. She'd met the man in the white coat. He'd called her by name, spoken like he knew her, like he'd done this before. And worst of all, she hadn't doubted him entirely. That terrified her more than anything. She sat up slowly. The air felt heavier than before. The baby monitor was silent now, as if even the voice inside had given up on her. That's when she noticed something new. A book, sitting on the nightstand. She reached for it cautiously, as if it might burn her. The leather cover was worn, the spine cracked. Her fingers trembled as she opened it. A journal. Her handwriting. She flipped through page after page, her own words spilling out in frantic, scrawling ink. Most of it was unintelligible repetitions, fragmented thoughts, sketches of faces she didn't recognize. But one entry stood out, dated 6 months ago. "They say I tried to kill my daughter. They say I was delusional. But I remember the fire. I remember the smell, and I remember her voice. The one behind the wall. I'm not crazy. They are. They're hiding something from me." Rachel clutched the journal to her chest, her breathing shallow. Daughter? She had no memory of a child. No memory of being pregnant. No memory of a fire. And yet her own handwriting insisted it had happened. She flipped to the last page. One line, scribbled violently. "She's still here." A crash rang out behind her. Rachel jumped to her feet. The dresser had fallen over. On its own. She stared, heart pounding. Then she saw it. Something had been behind it. A photograph. She picked it up slowly, brushing off dust. It was of her, holding a little girl, maybe 4 years old, blonde, laughing. The back of the photo was labeled in shaky pen. Emily, age 4. Rachel sat hard on the floor, her knees giving out. She had a daughter. She had a daughter and didn't even remember her name. Tears streamed down her face. "Emily," she whispered, "what happened to you?" The baby monitor crackled back to life. A child's giggle. Rachel's blood ran cold. Then dash tap. Tap tap on the wall again. No longer just behind her. Now all around her. "Mommy," the voice said, soft and playful. "Let's play." Rachel screamed, throwing the monitor across the room. Silence again. She sat there, clutching the photo, gasping. And then, without knowing why, she whispered, "I didn't hurt you. I would never hurt you." But even as she said it, she wasn't sure. It was true. Rachel didn't move for hours, maybe longer. Time was slippery, now thick and slow, like syrup over a wound. She sat on the floor, photo in one hand, journal in the other, whispering the name Emily, like it might bring her back. But nothing in this house returned from the dead. The baby monitor stayed silent, as if the voice inside had finally retreated into whatever dark space it came from. The tapping had stopped, but something else had started. A smell, faint, acrid, like burned plastic. She stood, sniffing the air-got smoke dot. She turned slowly and saw it. A black streak snaking down from the ceiling. Corner, smoke bleeding from the seams of the wall, like the house was exhaling it. Emily? She whispered. No answer. She followed the smoke dot to the crawl space. The panel she'd pried open earlier was already ajar. Waiting. Her journal fell to the floor with a soft thud as she stepped inside. The tunnel was hotter now, suffocating. Her knees scraped raw as she crawled through, eyes burning. The closer she got, the stronger the smell became. Like burning flesh and chemicals. She emerged again in the hospital corridor, but it was changed. Alarms blared in the distance. Red emergency lights flashed, painting the walls in pulses of blood. The red door stood wide open. Smoke poured from it. She approached slowly. Inside the room, everything was aflame, but there was no heat. No pain. It was like watching a memory burn. The hospital bed was engulfed. The mirror melted and dripped like wax. And in the corner a crib. Unscorched. She stepped toward it. Inside, nothing but ash. Her knees buckled. No, she whispered, reaching in. No, no, no. Suddenly, behind her, I warned you not to come here. She turned. The man in the white coat again. But now his face was wrong. Blurred. Like her brain refused to focus on it. Like it was hiding something it didn't want her to see. You weren't supposed to remember, he said. That's why we gave you the medication. That's why we sealed the room. Rachel backed away. Where's my daughter? He didn't answer, just stepped forward, hands open, soothing. You hurt her, Rachel. You don't want to believe it, but you did. No, she said, clutching the photo. I didn't. I would never. She died in the fire. You started it. You locked the door. You thought there were voices in the walls, and you set the house ablaze to kill them. But Emily was still inside. Rachel shook her head violently, trembling. You're lying. This house isn't even real. He smiled. Exactly. She blinked, and suddenly, they were no longer in the burning room. They were in a padded cell, and she was alone, wearing a hospital gown, her wrists bandaged. The photo gone. The man's voice echoed, even though he was no longer there. This is your last cycle, Rachel. If you break again, we won't bring you back. She ran to the wall, pounding her fists, screaming, and just before her fists gave out, the baby monitor buzzed to life. A child's voice, calm and soft. Mommy, you forgot again. Rachel sat in the corner of the padded cell, fingernails clawing at her scalp, whispering words that made no sense, half nursery rhymes, half prayers. Her mouth was dry, lips cracked, her eyes red from sleeplessness and smoke that wasn't there anymore. But the voice lingered. Mommy, you forgot again. That one sentence had shattered whatever fragile grip she had left. The baby monitor was gone. The photo was gone. Even the journal, the only proof of her truth, had vanished. The only thing left was the silence and the knowledge that someone was always watching. There were no windows, no door she could open, only the narrow panel in the ceiling where food trays slid through twice a day, like she was an animal too dangerous to look at directly. But on the third day, something changed. The tray came with a folded piece of paper. Tucked under the stale bread. She unfolded it slowly, half afraid of what it might say. We only let you remember to watch what you do with the truth. No signature. No explanation. But her mind she didn't trust anymore, flashed images. Without warning, she saw herself strapped to a table, electrodes attached to her skull, a row of doctors behind mirrored glass, needles, screaming, Not her, someone else's? Emily's? And then a voice from that room, not the man in the white coat, but a woman's. Calm, precise. Let her go back. Let's see what she does with it this time. Rachel doubled over, sobbing. Had this happened before? Was she part of an experiment? Patient in a psych ward? A prisoner? Or worse, was she doing this to herself? The walls began to shimmer again, like heat waves in a desert, like her reality was being redrawn. And suddenly, she was back in the bedroom, the floral wallpaper, the dusty bed, the baby monitor. The cycle had started again, but this time, Rachel didn't panic. She moved to the dresser. Nothing. Under the bed. Nothing. But the closet locked. Before was slightly open. She pulled the door wide and screamed. Inside, hanging from a coat hook, was a child's dress, burned at the edges, charred black and brown, like it had been pulled from a fire. On the floor beneath it, a tiny shoe. She dropped to her knees, sobbing. The baby monitor crackled. Louder now. I was in the closet, the voice said. You said it was safe. Rachel clutched the shoe to her chest. I didn't know. I didn't remember. You promised. The room began to shake. The wallpaper peeled faster. The floorboards groaned. And Rachel saw her own reflection in the mirror. Except it wasn't her. It was a version of her hair matted, eyes black with soot, arms clutching something that wasn't there. A child. Emily. Rachel moved to the mirror, hand trembling. I didn't mean to hurt you, she whispered. I was sick. I didn't know what was real. The reflection didn't respond, just stared. And then from behind her, a whisper. You'll have to remember everything before they make you forget again. Rachel turned. Darkness. Rachel was no longer afraid of the dark, not because it wasn't terrifying, but because it had become familiar. The dark was the only place where things almost made sense. In the light, they lied to her. In the light, they gave her pills and electrodes and told her stories that changed every time she asked a question. But in the dark, she heard Emily. She followed the voice through the house that wasn't a house, down halls that didn't obey the laws of time or physics or memory. Doors led to hospital rooms. Hospital rooms led to closets. Closets opened to fires that had already happened and were still happening. It was a loop. It was her mind. And finally, she stopped running. Rachel found herself in the padded cell again. But this time, she sat calmly, cross-legged. In the center of the floor, the mirror across from her was new, a one-way observation window, but it shimmered like water now. Something on the other side waited. She could feel it. She reached into her own memory and peeled it, open like a wound, and it came. The real memory, the one they had buried under sedation and false loops and synthetic guilt. It was raining the night of the fire. The house wasn't hers. It belonged to her sister, Caroline. Caroline had been a single mother. Rachel had moved in just to help. That's what she told the doctors later. That's what the courts had written down. But Caroline had a breakdown, paranoid psychosis. She'd started hearing voices in the walls, tapping at night. She had stopped sleeping, started locking doors, whispering to herself. Then one night, Caroline left, took her car, and drove into the reservoir. Rachel was left with a child, Emily, and she did everything she could, for months, until the voices came for her, too, until the same illness shared. Psychotic disorder, the doctors said, later took root in Rachel's mind. Folie à deux. Two minds sharing one delusion. Rachel started hearing the same things her sister had, believing the same impossible fears, that the house was alive, that Emily was being watched, that something in the walls wanted her child. So she did what she thought would save her. She locked Emily in the closet, poured gasoline at the thresholds, and set fire to the house to kill the voices. Only she survived, and her mind did what it had to do. Buried the truth, created loops, built a bedroom where the house never burned, a voice that was never fully silent, a daughter always just out of reach. Protective dissociation, they called it. The doctors created the simulation, a therapeutic recreation of the event to test her memory, to let her come back to it slowly. All of this was the experiment. And now she remembered everything. The mirror flickered. The man in the white coat stood on the other side, watching. Rachel rose. Calm, empty. She stepped toward the glass. "Don't sedate me again," she said, clear and steady. He didn't respond. "Know what I did," she whispered, "and I deserve to feel it. All of it." Behind her, the baby monitor let out one final hiss, then a child's voice. "Thank you." And for the first time, the monitor shut off completely. Rachel turned back to the mirror and smiled, not from joy, but from clarity. There would be no more loops, just truth and the long, dark road of living with it.